Thank you all for joining us. This is the Audit Committee meeting of June 26, 2023. And for those that can, please stand and we'll do the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we're hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. And this is Indigenous Peoples Heritage Month, so I'll make that a special greeting. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Are there any declarations of possible conflict of interest? Hearing and seeing none, can I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda? From committee members? No, you're not on this committee. No.
Trustee Pay.
Thank you, Trustee Pay, and seconded by Trustee Pilkey. Thank you. Sorry, seconded by Ms. Pilkey. Thank you. Thank you very much. All in favor, just show of hands or say aye online.
Aye.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to the approval of the meeting minutes for February 27th. You can find those in your package. Are there any questions on those minutes? Hearing and seeing none, may I please now have a mover then for approval of the agenda? Thank you, Ms. Pilkey, seconded by?
Trustee Pay.
Thank you very much, Trustee Pay. All in favor, show of hands, or just say
aye?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Are there any delegation staff? Thank you very much. So then we'll go to item 6.1, which is the external auditor update. Mr. Schneider, who will be presenting.
Through you, Madam Chair, we have Manager for the Audit Engagement, Lillian Chang, here to represent today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And
do you want to move your mic a little closer?
Oh,
there we go.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the committee for having me here today. My name is Lillian Chung. I think I know everyone. I'm the audit partner on the audit of the Toronto District School Board. Online, I'm joined by Dave Dumaguing, who is my audit manager as well. And together, we will present to you our audit plan for this year. We will assume that the plan has been pre-read, and so we will just hit on some of the key highlights for this year for the committee's information. And we will be starting on the executive summary page of our report, which is on page 10 of your agenda package. As the committee is aware, we are your appointed auditors for the school board, and with that means that not only do we perform an audit on the August 31st financial statements of the school board, which are largely prepared in accordance with a special purpose accounting framework as defined by the Ministry of Education. We also perform work on the trust funds financial statements of the school board. We also, on an annual basis, perform specific procedures as determined by the Ministry of Education on the March 31st period end. It's specifically for provincial consolidation reporting. That work has been recently completed, so we do want to make sure the committee's aware of that. The focus of our audit plan for today will be on identifying the key audit risk areas that we will be focusing on as part of our annual audit for this year. As I've mentioned before, I will assume that the report has been read. So what I propose to do for this year is to recap, by and large, the areas of the audit risks that are consistent with previous years, just to remind the committee of those areas, but then focus primarily on the new areas of audit risks in the current year, as there are some new changes and continued developments impacting the school board's financial reporting. So on page 10 of your agenda package, you would see that in the current year, we identified 8 areas of audit risk. Majority of these are consistent with the previous years, but I did want to highlight that item 6, which relates to management judgment and accounting estimates, as well as 7, adoption of new PSAS accounting standards, and 8, which relates to OSB consolidation, are items that we do want to draw to your attention this year, which are either changed in the current year or brand new in the current year. So I will speak through those as I move through in my report. On an annual basis for the committee's information, we do present as part of our audit plan our preliminary audit materiality. This audit materiality level helps us determine the extent of testing that we perform as part of our audit on an annual basis. And we do want to confirm that we expect to use 1% of total expenses for the school board to determine our overall audit materiality for this year. What that worked out to was about $30 million last year. Of more importance to the committee as well is that we are required to bring back to you any uncorrected or corrected misstatements that we identify as part of our audit that are greater than 5% of our materiality levels. So that works out to a $1.5 million threshold. We will be bringing that back at the conclusion of our audit to the committee if there are any items to be shared. Moving on to page 11 in your package, just a couple items that I do want to mention for the committee's information. As a reminder to the committee, the school board is a component of the overall provincial consolidated accounts. As a result of that, as your auditors, we do receive certain communications from the Office of the Auditor General of Ontario. They do, on an annual basis, share a risk assessment letter with us, as well as ask us to respond to certain questions relating to our audit procedures as well. So we do want to make sure that the committee is well aware of that. This is not new for this year, but is ongoing on an annual basis. We do also want to mention to the committee as well that we do make use of certain specialists as part of our audit and do intend to perform and use the work of our own internal IT specialists, as well as the board's actuarial specialists, as well as legal counsel as part of our overall audit work. Moving on pages 12, 13, as well as 14 and 15 of this package, we have outlined the audit risks for this year. As I've mentioned before, the majority of these items are consistent with prior years, so I won't go through those in great detail. But there are a few items on the latter pages that I do want to bring to the committee's information. Starting on management judgments and accounting estimates, the one area that we do want to raise is that we recognize in the current year with the repeal of Bill 124, there are continued discussions about certain accruals arising from this. We do expect that this will be an area of accounting estimates in the current year, so we will be paying specific attention to that in our discussions with management. We have yet to commence our interim audit work for this fiscal year. It will be occurring in July, so that is really when our first touch point relating to the year-end audit will occur. So we will be initiating discussions on that with management. On the next page is the adoption of new accounting standards in the current year. The committee may be aware that it's been a good number of years since there's been any substantive changes to public sector accounting standards, but this is one of those years where it will be impacting the school board. The largest standard of that being asset retirement obligations. So as we've worked through with the school board over the last couple of years and through the March 31st procedures, there are significant impact to the school board as it relates to the reporting of asset retirement obligations, which is a requirement that will come in for this year for all school boards and for public sector entities as well. We know that management team has expended quite a bit of effort in preparing for this new standard, and the ministry has also issued guidance as well in assisting with the implementation of these standards, and we expect that we'll be performing additional procedures as it relates to the year-end audit for this. We are expecting to commence some of this work as part of our interim audit so that we can upfront some of this additional effort, but also to ease the burden that will be required of management as well as part of this year's audit. Another standard that is in place this year relates to financial instruments. This is a standard that some other public sector entities had already adopted a number of years ago, but is also in place for this fiscal year as well. The ministry has also been assisting school boards with this with some sector-wide policies and guidance, and we will be working with management to ensure the adoption of the standard as well in the current year, as well as the reflection in the financial statements. And then lastly, the only other item that I do want to bring to your information relates to ongoing discussions about OSB. This continues to be a topic of discussion as to consolidation of OSB as it relates to the school board. We recognize that this doesn't directly impact TDSB, but it's something that we do want to raise because it is something that we think is impacting the sector. So we do want to make sure that we are reflecting that we're aware of the sector changes here. And then moving onwards, we did include a number of appendices as part of our audit plan, but I don't intend to go through those in any great detail. Appendix 1 outlines for you a more detailed view of our audit approach. Appendix 2 is just a listing of communication requirements that as your auditors, we have to communicate to the school board's audit committee on an annual basis. We did include a list of our audit timelines as part of Appendix 3 as well for your information. As I've outlined before, we are commencing our interim audit, which is typically where we focus on performing our annual planning as well as internal control assessment in July. And we will be performing school visits as well in the early fall in line with prior years. We do expect that we'll be able to perform that work in person as we were able to do that last year as well. And then we will be coming back to the committee in December with our audit results report. And then lastly, the only other item I want to speak to is that on Appendix 4, we did outline for you a list of new accounting standards that will be impacting the school board. Some of these are ones that I've already mentioned before. The first two items relating to asset retirement obligations and financial instruments are standards that are coming in place this year, but there are a few other ones as well that we've outlined here for your information, but nothing that we believe will immediately impact the school board. So our focus is very much on the first two items. I'll pause, but happy to take any questions you may have for me.
Thank you very much. Ms. Pilkey?
Through you, Madam Chair, a couple questions. Sorry, I'm going to flip my papers here. On page 15, the asset retirement obligation, do staff think that that's going to have a significant effect on the financial statements? And I assume it's being applied retroactively.
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, we don't see it as an impact to financial statements. It is a significant amount of work for staff, though.
And it would be applied retroactively, is that correct, this standard?
There will be an opening balance restatement
Right.
as of September 1st.
Okay, thank you. And just for clarity, we aren't in OSB. The TDSB has not been, through you, Madam Chair, the TDSB has not been in OSB for about 5 years. So is there any anticipation this will have any effect on the statement? I can't. Since we've already determined we're not getting it, that you're not getting any of the money, right?
Through you, Madam Chair, we are still in appeals for it, but we do think it's a low probability that we'll get anything.
All right, so this OSB should have no effect on these statements.
No,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Thank you. That was my question. I had a second question. Sorry. Oh, no, that my questions are covered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone online that has any questions?
I do.
Please go ahead, Joy.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, I have two questions, one for management, one for the auditor. The first question to management is, what do you think Bill 124 will have, what kind of impact do you think it will have on the financials?
Bill 124, sorry, what are you referencing?
It's the, maybe I'm getting my bills wrong, sorry. It's the, the repeal of Bill 124.
Okay, it's right here, sorry.
What page?
Page 5, 124, that salary one that's been.
So the probably will impact your accruals, your wage accruals. Just kind of want to understand how big of impact I think it is.
Remember, the government has appealed the ruling on the salary wages for staff.
I just trying to think, the accrual, page 14, sorry, just 1 second, I just gotta look. I don't believe it'll have any, because we have some wage settlements already in place of our collective agreements, and others are still under negotiation. We'll continue to accrue as per ministry instructions or collective agreements that have been ratified.
Okay. So sorry, I just wanted to, I'm having trouble hearing. So just to confirm, you don't think there's going to be a large impact to the financials based on this?
Through you, Madam Chair, no, we don't.
Thank you. The second question I have is through you, Madam Chair, is to the auditors. Ms. Chung, can you just kind of comment on what's the impact of the new SIS, Power School SIS, will have on your auditing revenues?
So as it relates to PowerSchool's SIS, I think the biggest impact to us will be on enrollment. So on an annual basis, we do perform certain testing as it relates to school level enrollment, as obviously it will impact the revenue figure that is reported as well. So we are expecting that we will be performing some testing on the enrollment figures themselves that are implemented and are reported on an analytic basis, on a year-over-year basis, to understand whether or not there are any unexpected changes in terms of trends. But we will also be expecting to perform some work on the internal controls as it relates to PowerSchools. We do expect that we'll be using some of our IT specialists to assist us with that. So it'll be two-pronged. It will be both from an enrollment itself perspective and also some testing on systems controls.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Pilkey.
Through you, Madam Chair, my question actually follows Ms. Choi's question about Bill 124. If through you to the auditor, I'm assuming this is here in the assumption that if it's determined that there is retroactive payments required to make to those employees who were affected by 124, that's what you're talking about. But I guess it would also, the assumption would also be that the province would have to fund that, so it should come out to zero at the end. Fingers crossed for you all.
Yes.
Is that correct?
I think that is the assumption.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I would say so. And just to maybe add to that, on a sector by sector perspective, as it is impacted by different ministries, there's different treatments being undertaken as it relates to Bill 124 accruals and also funding. So one of the reasons why we raised this is because it's something that we want to ensure that we have good clarity on in terms of if there will be a retro-related liability. We recognize both whether or not it's been accrued, if it comes to that point, and also what the funding mechanism will be.
A further question, Madam Chair?
Please.
Has there been any instructions from the Auditor General on this issue?
Not yet.
Okay, thank you.
And may I pass the chair to you, Ms. Pilkey? Thank you very much. I have a question for the auditor through the chair. Because there is a relationship between this board and the province of Ontario, and you mentioned about the group audit piece, has our auditor been involved with the Auditor General's audit of the board? Is there any relationship there through you, Madam Chair, to the auditor?
As it relates to the ongoing audit of the Auditor General, no. No, we've had no direct interaction with them, and they haven't reached out to us specifically relating to that. The only instructions and communication we receive from them relates specifically to their interaction with us for the year-end audit. So we haven't had any direct interaction with them on the ongoing audit that's happening.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe, could I ask for a
Sure,
clarification?
I'll take the chair back and go for it.
Sorry, when you say year-end audit, do you mean the year-end audit of the province or the year-end audit of the school board?
Of the school board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. So are there any other questions on this item? Seeing and hearing none, may I have a mover, please? I think this item is actually here for receipt. Anyone online to move it?
I'll move it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Choi. Seconded by Ms. Pilkey. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Thank you so much. Is that Trustee Wong? Have you joined us?
Hi, Madam Chair. Sorry, I'm late. I'm
Oh,
here.
no problem. Just wanted to, I thought I heard your voice, but I just wanted to confirm. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're moving on now to an annual report 7.1, the annual insurance update that you can find on page 33 of the agenda. To staff, who will be presenting, please?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'll ask Tony Rossi, our Manager of Risk and Insurance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig, and welcome, everyone. Starting in January 1st, the TDSB annual insurance program was renewed. The program is, we are represented by Aon Insurance Brokers in the insurance marketplace. And since 2018, just to give you an idea, the insurance market has been quite a bit of turbulence. So the global insurance market has been undergoing significant change due to the natural catastrophes that took place in 2017 and 18, and this resulted in insurer capacity and rate increases. This is often known as a hard market. And for 2023 renewal, modest price increases continued, in part due to the rising inflation as well as continued supply chain and insurer labor shortages, while improved insurance company performance, the mobilization of new capacity, and with the exception of cyber insurance, and insurance company focus on portfolio retention and profitable growth served to counter these price increases. Furthermore, insurance carriers are now using advanced data analytics to differentiate between good and poor risks. This has resulted in insurance carriers looking for best-in-class business, which includes organizations committed to risk management and low loss ratios, and giving them better rates in exchange for that. The annual premium 2021 to 2023 chart in the report provides the final premium rates for the different insurance lines for 2023 compared to 2022 and 2021. And the total resulted in a modest savings of $367,000 overall. I just want to quickly review each line, if that's okay, starting with the commercial general liability. So the limit of insurance for general liability is $24 million, and our deductible remains at $150,000. The premium increased by 10%, and in 2022, the TDSB selected AXA XL insurance option that provided a total insured liability of $5 million, not the previous $24 million we used to traditionally have. And our liability insurance includes an abuse limit of $5 million. Again, this was previously $24 million in prior years. AXA XL provided a flexible three-term renewal guarantee starting January 1st, 2022, and this is going to end in January 1st, 2025. Unlike previous rate guarantees, the guarantee will provide the same coverage and premium, but it's subject to student counts and loss experience plus 10% of expiring premium. So the TDSB's claims administration section of the Insurance and Enterprise Department works very closely with AXA XL partners and staff to effectively respond to incident and claims and maintain a favorable loss experience. Notably, right now we have open claims, total incurred standing at just over 5.8 million. In total incurred open claims right now. And we manage those working with AXA XL partners. So the TDSB also purchased an excess liability insurance policy with a $19 million limit through the Lloyd's of London and QBE Canada, which provides a combined limit of insurance except for the abuse coverage of $24 million. So the abuse coverage still remains at $5 million, but the excess liability also applies to the automobile and garage insurance $5 million limit. So we did have a slight increase in that shown at, like I said, 10% increase in the commercial general liability. In property for 2020, the insurance renewal period, the TDSB experienced significant change to our property insurance premiums due to the hardening global insurance market and the two major fires, one being at Jones Avenue and the other being at York Memorial, that was experienced in May 2019. And as a result, the TDSB's property insurance and deductible drastically increased from just about 1.8 million to almost 9.5 million at that time. That's like just over a 400% increase. But since 2020 has been decreasing. So the premium decrease for 2023 was approximately 50% from the 2022 decrease at 1.350 million. And although the TDSB's claims experience was favorable, the total property insurable values increased by 7% from just over 12 billion to 13.5 billion, which has had a most significant impact on our premium reduction. So although we got that premium reduction, we also had to increase the premiums because of the insurable values. Equipment breakdown, there hasn't been much of an increase here, but the limit remains the same, and we have 100 million, and we still maintain our $250,000 deductible. We still maintain with the boiler and insurance and inspection company. Things are going very well with that company, by the way, and similar to 2022, the premium increase is due to the TDSB's increase in insured values. That's why we had that slight increase. Crime, the limit of insurance is 500,000, deductible is 50,000, except for inside-outside premises, which is 15,000, and the coverage does include social engineering coverage with a $250,000 limit and $50,000 deductible. And we are insured through the Great American Insurance Group that continues to insure the TDSB. The crime insurance market continues to be in a hard market position, and many insurers are still imposing increases between 15% and 20%. So the 8% increase is slightly lower than 2022 and is more favorable than the increases in the insurance marketplace that were subjected to the TDSB. With automobile, the limit of insurance is $5 million, the deductible is $25,000, and nil for liability on the liability side. As mentioned previously, the excess liability provides an additional $19 million worth of coverage, so now there is a total of $24 million for the automobile as well, and QBE Services Inc. continues to be the insurer there. So following market increases of 15 to 20%, QBE provided an increase of approximately 7%. 5% was driven by the TDSB's vehicle count, increasing from 849 units to 883 units, with the remaining 2% resulting directly from inflation. And the TDSB continues to undertake significant risk management initiatives to improve driver training and safety, including a driver safety manual and driver safety review committee, and the insurers have recognized this. Garage automobile, the limit is $5 million and the deductible is $2,500. Again, the excess liability policy provides an additional $19 million for a total of $24 million, and this is through QBE Services. There was no increase there. Fine arts, the limit of insurance is $6.5 million and the deductible is $0 unless there's damage by flooding. And the Lloyd's of London are the insurers, sorry, and the Lloyd's of London resulting from the TDSB's declared fine arts value increasing from $6.6 million to $6.942 million has resulted in this increase of $928, minor increase. And finally, network cyber privacy insurance, the limit is $5 million and the deductible is $1 million. The cyber insurance hard market continued to be challenged by adverse ransomware loss, and that has impacted premiums, retentions, and availability of coverage. In 2022, the TDSB did slightly better with a 54% increase given the market average increase of 60%. And for 2023, insurance companies continue their emphasis on risk selection or best in class, as mentioned previously, such as having a development of a minimum network security controls in order to obtain competitive cyber insurance coverage. Unfortunately, the premium increases of 60% continues in the industry, in particular for educational institutions. And the TDSB has historically purchased this coverage on a catastrophic form of coverage. However, market forces and losses have increased the minimum retention or deductible requirements, as well as impacted limits and coverages. So as a result, we were provided with two options this year. Option one, we either get a $1 million deductible with a $5 million limit, and the annual premium cost was $200,000 for that, or $201,609. And option two was a $500,000 deductible, so lower, but only a $3 million limit, and the annual premium cost would have been $135,540. The TDSB selected option one with the higher limit, again representing our catastrophic coverage position. If there's any questions, I'd be pleased to answer them.
Mr. Rossi,
Thank you.
do you want to say anything? Okay, I'll go to Ms. Pilkey.
Through you, Madam Chair, I have a question. You indicated that there's currently, the CGL has open claims of 5.8 million and that the deductible is 150,000. Is that correct?
That's correct.
How many open claims is that? You don't have to give me the exact number, just
Yeah, no.
within
I
reason.
think I had that anticipating this question. But
So predictable.
tell me I do have it. I want to say, I can't give you the numbers. Hold on. Okay, I'm sorry. You just want to give me a second. So open claims 264. We have about 263 claims open.
About 263.
About 263.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would,
Calculators out.
sorry, quick math here.
And that's total incurred, so that means payments plus reserves.
So most of them would be under the deductible at that point.
Yeah, most of them are,
Okay.
speaking, yeah.
All right. And my other question, can you please remind me, crime insurance, what is social engineering coverage?
Social engineering coverage, you'll see when someone's who gets very familiar with your operation, and perhaps a contractor, just say, and you have a very good relationship, they're very familiar with the project that's going on. For example, just take York Memorial, and they'll call our finance department. Everybody knows who the contractor is. It says, oh, by the way, we just changed our checking account. So can you now, and we really need this money. Can you just.
Hi, this sounds like a real life example.
And basically that's social engineering. We do that without perhaps, doing enough checks, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to retain that little comment for maybe another report this today.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions for anyone online?
I have a question.
Please go ahead, Ms. Chow.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, I have a question for Mr. Nortes. Just want to kind of understand from your point of view how you feel about the insurance program, and whether there's any risks in the insurance coverage.
Sorry, whether there's any risk in the.
To our insurance coverage.
Okay, through you, Madam Chair. Well, there's always risks because there's deductibles, and deductibles, yeah, you don't have sometimes you don't have claims going over the deductible, but then you can have a very high frequency of claims. So you can have a lot of claims within the deductible that can cost you quite a bit. So there's that risk. I think our limits are fine. But there is the risk, for example, that, our limits are exhausted of the insurance, and then we're into our own, funds. So there's that risk. There is the risk around risk management in general. Again, I've mentioned best in class. There are insurers. We've seen that already on the cyber, where they're basically saying we're not just looking to insure companies now. We are looking for companies that are actually practicing risk management, and those are the companies we're actually looking for. So in terms of ensuring that you get insurance, that's become quite a challenge. And we've seen that directly in our cyber insurance program this year, where in fact they've even in some cases made warnings that, look, if you don't get this, we're not going to even look at you as an insurer. So consequently, the number of subjectivities that insurance companies have, in the sense that they are asking a lot more questions, and they're saying, if you don't have these to continue in your insurance and to, and for us to provide you this quote that we've offered you, you got to come back and show this, and this sort of thing. So we're getting a lot of questions that way, and that's created a risk because it really makes us, if we don't have those, we have to start working on those to produce those for the insurance company. Not sure if that answers your question, if that's helpful.
No, it does. It does. Thank you very much. Just a follow-up question. Has there been instances where we couldn't get insurance because we didn't have what was required?
Not since I've been here, and no, not that since I've been here. No, there's been challenges. We've worked with insurance companies, but generally speaking, no.
Great. Thank you for your feedback.
Thank you very much. Hearing and seeing no other questions, may I please have a mover to receive the report? Thank you, Ms. Pilkey. Someone online to second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye or show of hands.
Aye.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? No, that's great. Thank you so much. The next item on our agenda will be an oral update from staff from the Office of the Attorney General, Ontario Audit.
You, Madam Chair, I'll ask Associate Director Stacy Zucker to take this.
Thank you, and through the chair, as the audit committee knows, on January 9th, we did receive a letter from the Auditor General that we've been selected for, that the operations of the TDSB has been selected for a value for money audit. We did meet with the Auditor General on January 27th to discuss this. Staff met with the Auditor General, and they did begin their work on site on February 13th. In the January letter, the Auditor General indicated that they would do the planning work first, and that a scope would be provided in the objectives at that time. So the planning work has been undergone, and there have been, we've been tracking the staff hours associated with this. And although obviously we haven't received all of the tracking sheets back yet, we do have approximately 500 hours so far invested of staff time invested in the planning work. It includes a number of different departments. It includes schools. It includes TLC. So there have been a number of staff that have been reached out to by the Auditor General. I just want to let the audit committee know that staff has been as responsive as possible to the requests of the Auditor General through this planning stage. In some cases, the Auditor General has requested information, actually in many cases, that dates back 10 years. It may not be readily accessible, and therefore it does take time to retrieve it. In some instances, staff have had to prioritize their daily work in order to meet either ministry deadlines or other deadlines, operational deadlines of the board. And so, although we do recognize the importance of providing the info that is requested by the Auditor General, and everybody is doing their best to get it to them on a timely basis, there are instances where it is taking, I would say, the Auditor General will tell you, longer than they would like to receive some information. So I just wanted to let the audit committee know that we are taking the requests very seriously, but things like the budget or payroll or the ministry 7-month report that have all taken place within this time period as well have had to be dealt with first. Once the planning is finalized and the objectives are being finalized currently, and they will be signed off on to move forward with the additional work. We are working to ensure that someone is available over the summer for the Auditor General to have, so that they will have a contact the whole time during the summer. But we do need to make sure that staff are taking their vacation time. It is the time when we usually do, most staff do take their vacation. So we want to ensure that we are, that staff are available to do that as well. The audit is expected to be completed in the fall. And once the draft is, once the audit is complete, the draft report will be shared with staff. And then we will have an opportunity to read it and to provide staff responses or management responses. and that the audit should be released in about, it's usually November or December of the calendar year as part of the annual report that's released by the auditor with all of their value for money audits at one time. So that's staff's update today. As we know, we will be also meeting with the Auditor General, and there may be questions that will be better suited for them. But staff will do our best to answer any questions today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pilkey.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair, to staff. So let's just make sure I understand this correctly. So far, it's taken 500 hours of planning, and they have not determined the scope, or they have not shared the scope yet?
The draft scope has been, or the draft objectives have been shared, and so we are working through finalizing those objectives. And I think that the objectives are, in essence, the scope as well. They're attached.
Okay, so the TLC, some individual schools, some different departments, and those is kind of the three areas that they've honed in on?
Through the chair would be, I think you wouldn't probably come across a department at the board that they haven't been in contact with in some way to request information.
Okay, but that doesn't mean they're auditing sorry, through you, Madam Chair, that doesn't mean they're auditing every department. Is this for them to narrow down where they're auditing, or they think they're auditing every department?
Through the chair, the objectives that I think that will come through the discussion with the Auditor General are fairly high level, so I think will still be a significant involvement in the audit by a lot of different departments through TDSB.
All right. Through you, then how realistic is it that it would be completed in the fall? Like, do you see that as through you, Madam Chair, do you see that as a realistic expectation?
Through the chair, I believe that would be their deadline that they have. So I assume that they will be doing the work that they have to do. And again, staff will do our best to be able to provide the information to them in a timely basis. So I'm not sure what their timelines look like. I believe if the planning took 6 months, the audit will have to be done quicker in order to meet those timelines.
Through you, Madam Chair, how many staff do they seem to have working on this?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'd say approximately 6 to 8 staff on the file.
All right, so let me make sure I understand this. 6 to 8 staff, almost every department at the TDSB, some schools, and the TLC, and it will be finished in the fall? So through you, Madam Chair, is staff getting pushback from the Auditor General about cooperation?
Through the chair, there have been some concerns with the timeliness of receiving information.
I'm wondering how they're going to manage that, but given they're expecting to do field work in September when school boards basically are trying to get those buses out. Is transportation on there? Any hope? Don't laugh. Okay, so I guess that I would, best of luck.
Thank you, Ms. Pilkey. May I pass the chair to you?
Sure.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the Auditor General has their work to do, but I appreciate the fact that we're running a school board system for 240,000 students, and I completely support the fact that staff has to prioritize their work to ensure the safety and educational aspects of students are dealt with. Is there anything you need from the audit committee to support staff's priorities, or anything from the board that you need through the audit committee to staff, because I understand the scope and scale, but it's a tremendous amount of effort. They don't pay for additional staff for this. We couldn't use additional staff anyway because they wouldn't have the expertise to go back 10 years to find the information. So I'm just asking if there's anything we can do as a committee to be helpful. I understand their request, but I appreciate staff prioritizing the work of the board. For example, if they asked you questions last week when we were in the middle of preparing our operational budget, I could understand that you said, I will get back to you. So I'm just wondering, through you, Madam Chair, to staff, if there's anything that we can be doing.
Thank you, and through the chair, I think at this time we were just asking for your understanding that if you do receive that feedback, that staff really does understand the importance of the work that is happening, but at the same time have a duty to perform their duties to TDSB. And as we all know, even through many budget iterations, that when we look at central staff reductions, these are the types of impacts that this will have when we're running a lean admin and governance side. So it is, it can be challenging. And the other thing that I would say is that, when the Auditor General went out to schools, they were also looking at a June time. They were going out in June. And so just the understanding of the different sort of the cycles that school boards go through and the busy times, I understand that they have their work to do too. So it can be challenging at times to meet the deadlines that they're asking for. And I see that the director also would like to comment.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pilkey. I'll take the chair back.
Please do.
And Director Russell Rollins, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Through you, Chair, good afternoon. I would like to just affirm what Associate Director Zucker has shared with you, and also to add how seriously staff are taking the requests from the Auditor General's staff. I don't need to share with this particular committee that a value for money audit is serious and has the potential to inform the way in which we build our budgets in the future, and areas that we need to either make changes in or further examine our practices. That's why providing the Auditor General with accurate information and being able to respond to any information that they share with us for fact checking is so important to staff. But it is certainly time consuming, and we are working through how we manage their requests in a timely way, but that we also provide accurate information so that their conclusions are based on facts and a deep understanding of our organization and education. So at this time, I don't believe that staff have a specific request of this committee or of the board. We offer you this information just as context and welcome any feedback that you may have for us.
Thank you very much, Director Russell Rollins, and thank you, staff, for the update. Just checking, was there no one else? Thank you. So that was an oral report, so we don't need a formal receipt. So we're moving on to the Power School Information Update, the SIS project. And this is here just to provide us an update for receipt. Please go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'll let Executive Officer Peter Singh start, and I may add comments at the end.
Thank you very much. Mr. Singh, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Through you, Madam Chair, here's a June update related to the Power School project. And I'll ask the staff to move on to the next slide, please. This is the quarterly update we have been bringing to this table as part of this big project. And we are in year 2 of this project. Some of the remaining project items we're working on right now is Power School's enrollment module. We wanted to integrate the French immersion application process into our new platform. The other item that's outstanding is parent portal and e-forms. We are at present addressing the outstanding issues with this particular module, part of the rollout. And then the third piece is special education module, is to pilot the ILPs and IEPs functionalities this fall. The full system rollout of all special program functions will actually begin in March 2024. Next slide, please. Further update related to the French immersion registration. The French immersion key stakeholders met with the project team also, and they decided they would like to postpone the launch of the Power School enrollment tool until the 24th, 25th school year. And for that, the go live will be happening in November 2024. PARS, the existing platform or application, will continue to support the existing FI registration system that has been in play for quite a number of years, and it will be in play again this November. We will be postponing the launch and extending the project duration and provide the teams with more time for quality assurance, communication, and training the staff on the new system as we actually launch this particular piece for November 2024. Next slide, please. Wanted to flag some of the issues we have faced related to parent portal and e-collect. This piece was not delivered, which is a communication tool for parent and guardians to log into Power School through an online portal. This allows them to view their student information such as grades, attendance, and to share information back through forms using the e-collect tool, which is built into the Power School platform. The existing Power School portal authentication process is not incompatible with TDSB strategy or aligns with industry best practices that's been in play with the big vendors. For example, we use Microsoft technologies. That existing solution they're offering is not in sync with that particular technical solution we have in place. Efforts on an internal TDSB workaround were unsuccessful, and we will continue to work with Power School in making this solution compliant. That also involves have engaged the technical folks on the Microsoft team also, who works with the Power School from vendor to vendor relationship to actually have a solution that will be working for us. Over here, I just wanted to, part of the issues and risks, I wanted to also flag, which didn't make it to this slide from last year's rollout. There has been impact on our ONSYS submissions. Our September ONSYS submissions have been delayed because this is the first cycle we're going through the Power Schools ONSYS submission module. And we've been working with the various internal TDSB teams, also ministry folks, to establish new timelines. I know Executive Officer Greg Snyder might have a further update related to the ONSYS at the tail end of this presentation. Next slide, please. For the Power School, this year 2 rollout was focused on special education. And here's a timeline we have established working with the spec ed team. That work has started in April until June, what we have done so far. And then come September, we will be going into a pilot mode. And then the winter break, you will see Power School goes live with the spec ed module on this side. That's a March break, September 11 to 15 timeline. Next slide, please. This was a schedule established by Audit Committee and FBAC to come back to these tables to provide this update starting in March 2021. This according to that schedule, this is the last presentation. If this committee will like us to come back, we will love to come back and continue to provide update. It's up to this committee to give us direction on that. Next slide, please. Also the budget and actuals, and jumping to the 22-23, and you can see we are in sync with what was proposed originally, and we are on budget as we have rolled out this initiative since 2021. That is the quick update I have for this table. I think this was the last slide. I'll pause and I'll request Executive Officer Craig Snyder to provide an update related to ONSIS submissions.
Thank you, and through the chair. So we have had, as Executive Officer Singh spoke about, some challenges getting a collection of ONSIS enrollments up to the ministry. We have set up a team, meets twice a week, which includes planning, SIS, and myself, to work through it. We have right now at this today, 83% of our schools have completed their October work that they have to do. We have only set up one school to ONSIS at this point in time, and we have 13, just shy of 14% of March schools completing their work. We have, in order to help the schools, offered them additional help in either OA overtime or bringing in temporary help so the OAs can work on their ONSIS and their enrollment submission within SIS. We will have a further report at the November meeting when we present the financial statements about the ONSIS reporting, as it's an important part of our funding. We did approach the Ministry of Education for an extension and have been granted extension to August 31st to complete our ONSIS October, March, and June reporting. We are meeting with the ministry just, I can't remember if it's prior or after the August long weekend, to give them an update on our progress. We're hoping that by the mid-July, we'll have the October ONSIS submission up into ONSIS, and then we'll focus on the March submission and complete it. But we are behind, and we are working through it, as Officer Singh said, going through the process. And either of us are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Trustee Cherneslin?
So the first question I have a few questions about Power School. The first one is, do we have any further information on what went wrong with the alternative school enrollment with Power School?
I'll turn to Executive Officer Singh if he could answer that.
Through you, Madam Chair, as part of the work behind the scenes to understand what happened with that particular engagement with Power School, yes, we did reach out to Power School, and they have submitted their findings to us, what has happened and what they have seen on their end related to that particular engagement with TDSB.
Through the chair.
Who was
Please
that?
go ahead. I think it might be the director.
Sorry, who was speaking online?
Thank you very much. Yes, it was me, through the
Thank
chair.
you. Thank you, Director.
I would ask that any further conversation with regards to Power School and the elementary alternative school enrollment is done in private, please.
Thank you very much. We do have a private item on this agenda, so we'll hold anything further until after that. Any other questions, Chair Cherneslin?
Yes, I do. Okay, I had a feeling that might be the case, but my other questions I don't think involve private. I wondered, with respect to the French immersion, there's been an ask repeatedly from the FSLAC to try and align the enrollment, because we now have like JK enrollment for French immersion and English for JK as opposed to one that used to be SK. there's been an ask from that committee to align
Kindergarten enrollment.
kindergarten enrollment as to, that you could choose either, which one you wanted from basically the same platform. So I can see that is not going to be happening this year. Is the intention still to try to ensure that we get to that point?
Through you, Madam Chair, and I wasn't in those meetings with the French Immersion Program lead individual and other stakeholders. I do not have an answer. I will reach out to the key individuals to get an answer for that one. I do not have an answer to that particular question at this stage.
Okay. Just to clarify, just so people know what I'm talking about, the intention, of course, is always that people can apply to English throughout the year, right? Like it's not something where there's a time limited amount for English, whereas there is a recognition by the committee that with French immersion, it wouldn't be rolling enrollment through the entire year, but they might open, not necessarily, well, I don't know if they'd open at the same time, but that it would be at the same site so that parents would get information. Just so when you're taking that back and thinking about it, just so that that parents can make a decision faced with information on both programs, as opposed to currently, the feeling is that we tend to roll out
It's different timelines.
JK for English tends to sort of roll out in around after the new year, whereas in French immersion, it's rolled out November, usually in the month of November. And there is a recognition that it has to be a short time frame so that staffing can be done appropriately, but the idea is that parents should have information on both. And I think it would be important for us to report back to French immersion, to the FSLAC committee, and maybe that's through me, on that this is tied to a challenge we're facing in Power School.
Can I just stop you there and just ask clarification from staff? And it might not be Mr. Singh, but I had thought that the timeline for French immersion, the timeline for kindergarten enrollment was moving to November to align with French immersion. Is that a Power School related question, or is that something that staff will do and then Power School will come second?
Through you, Madam Chair, this is our staff directing the Power School project team. This is how they will like to roll out the French immersion program. So I believe the timelines you're talking about that's the direction our lead French immersion centrally assigned principal has given to the project team. So that's why you see the shift and the pivot on our side.
So sorry, just for clarity, if there's an issue with the French application through Power School, does that mean for September of 2024, the registration for both French and English JK will be in November of 2023?
I believe the English registration starts in February timeline. The French one starts in November. But again, I could
No, I don't
I'm
think it's you,
guessing at
Mr.
this stage
Singh. I
right now.
think
So
it's,
because I don't have the details about the timelines of that program, I'm unable to confirm or deny that.
okay, through you, Madam Director, would you know the answer to that? Okay, we'll have to follow up. Oh, thank you.
Sorry, through the chair. I'm sorry, I can't verify that. I will have to bring that information back to you.
Thank you very much. I think that's an important clarification because I do think there's a system expectation that the kindergarten enrollment for both English and French will be in November.
So just to clarify, I'm not sure that was exactly the expectation of the French committee. I don't know that commitment was 100% made. The commitment was that this is something that staff is working towards. When that would happen was unclear at this point. So just for the committee chair and for this committee, I think it's a wish they have, and I think there's logic to it, but not a system expectation at this point. I might go back on the list if there's other questions, if other people have questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pilkey.
Through you, Madam Chair. I note that the e-collect tool for the forms will not be running through Power School. I'm assuming it will continue to run on however we're doing it, that you're doing it now, because it is being done electronically now, I believe.
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, we will continue to use our existing platform that has been in use for quite a number of years until this issue gets resolved.
Okay, thank you. I just did not want to hear you were going back to paper forms.
May I pass the chair to you, Ms. Pilkey?
Sure, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Through you to staff. Anecdotally, we keep hearing issues with Power School from our schools. And I am wondering, through you, Madam Chair, to staff, is that only related to this enrollment module where they're having such difficulty? Or are there other areas of Power School where there seems to be great consternation at the school level in terms of implementation? Through you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Singh?
Through you, Madam Chair, Power School project was a big change for us as an organization. We changed the platform after almost, I will say, 20 plus years. So a lot of our existing office staff were trained on the legacy SAS platform. So they have built a rock solid practice over the years in that particular platform. Whenever you make a big change like what we did on SAS, or we call on the business side enterprise resource planning ERP projects or a payroll projects, things like that one, these projects are very heavy on human change management side, because now you're changing an individual's practice and fluency, which they have mastered over the years, to relearn something brand new, because all platforms don't work the same way. So the first year was very painful going through that change, because we needed to make sure everyone is fully trained on this platform. So looking at the timelines, looking at my emails coming into my inbox, also working closely with different tables, which included table with QP, table with OSSTF, table with ETF and TSAA. We've been, from a project side, been working with all those individual tables to make sure anyone had any issues and concerns are being addressed in a timely fashion. So the biggest challenge we experienced as we kept tabs on what the staff was seeing was around relearning a new platform, new way of doing business. And this, especially when we have streamlined the legacy system over the 20 plus years. Now, when we bring on a new platform, we expected that we have to spend some more time to even keep tweaking this new platform to fit the way TDSB would like it to work. So those were the issues raised, and a number of things were tabled, and we continue to work closely with the Power School to address those, and our own team also learning at the same time that this is how the new platform works really well. So that's been our experience so far. The work that has gone into the second year cycle, that means taking the registration starting in February, has gone smoothly. Setting up secondary scheduling has gone very smoothly this year. And elementary scheduling is also, which is again timetabling, has gone very smoothly compared to the last year. That's the update I have. And I can tell you that number of emails coming into my inbox complaining about that why the system has been brought in. I have a challenging experience with it. It's not working for me, has dried up altogether. So we have really addressed quite a number of challenges people have tabled, either through training, either opening up Zoom rooms so we can give a real-time support to them. So I believe The second year now that started this February, March, that cycle has gone through smoothly. I'll take a pause. I know our director has a hand up. Go ahead, Director.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, certainly this has been perhaps one of the most significant shifts, modernizations that have occurred in the TDSB over the past decade or beyond. It comes after a system that was built to respond to what TDSB staff in different capacities use the system for. And Power School, as I have learned from the implementation team, is a standard product. They have worked with table teams for the last number of months to hear concerns and then to have Power School develop patches, my word, not likely Executive Officer Singh's words, but patches to respond to the unique requests that have come forward from different stakeholder groups who are using Power School. So the program is really being adapted for a TDSB context. It was never built to respond to many of the functions that our staff have enjoyed using as part of their work and relied on historically. I am confident that as we move forward, we now have better systems in place to understand the concerns coming from staff and or requests, and then to continue to work with Power School where feasible to address their requests and any other challenges within the system.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any further questions?
I think actually it's me who's saying that because
Sorry.
any further questions? Sorry, and you're taking it back now.
I'll take it back.
If there's anyone else on the list.
I don't think anyone's hand is up, so Ms. Chinslin?
Okay. The only other question I had was, I noticed that we're going to be testing the IEP, the special ed pieces in the fall. We're going to begin piloting it. And I wondered in how many schools we're doing that in, and if trustees might get information if any of their schools are being used on this.
Do staff have a response to that?
Through you, Madam Chair, I do not have the precise numbers for the number of schools have been picked by project team / spec ed department. I will gather that information to make sure we share that through Trustee Weekly.
Okay, seeing as there's no trustee weekly, like the last one who went out this past week, maybe that could just be flagged for the August trustee weekly.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Are there any further questions? Sorry.
If I may, through the chair, I believe Trustee Chair-Oslin, the number is 17 schools, but we will certainly provide a summary for you. All the administrators had an excellent training session with the team showcasing the functionality, and this is a small pilot, so looking forward to expanding it.
Okay, thank you. I'll look forward to learning more about what Power School might be able to do for us in this regard as we develop our experience with it more. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, can I have a mover and a seconder to receive this report? Thank you, Ms. Pilkey. A seconder, please. Anyone online?
Trustee Arts.
Thank you very much, Trustee Arts. All in favor, say aye. Or show
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Okay, thank you. That carries on. Item 9.1, Internal Audit Department Status Update, June 2023, on your agenda on page 49.
For you, Madam Chair, I'll ask Internal Audit Manager Wasif Hussain to walk you through this report.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'd like to introduce item 9.1, the Internal Audit Department and status, engagement status update, which begins on agenda page 49. There's two appendices that will be presented, the updated internal audit charter and our regular departmental update. So Appendix 1, the current audit charter, in terms of background, the current audit charter was last updated in 2014. And this updated charter reflects the format of the format of the Institute of Internal Auditors updated model charter. The updated charter is on agenda page 51 and was previously presented at the June and September 2022 meetings, audit committee meetings. And it was to be signed upon the election of the audit committee chair. As the chair was elected at the last audit committee meeting, we are requesting that internal audit work with both the chair and director's offices to have the charter signed. If I can now direct your attention to Appendix B, our departmental update on agenda page 57. With respect to recruitment, our recruitment efforts were unsuccessful and hiring has been paused as we address the deficit. The department has been operating with 2 internal auditors for the current year and will likely continue until the budget is balanced. And just an update, one of our other auditors recently went for back surgery and is in recovery, so we don't know when they will be coming back. So that also may impact our audit plan in September, but I will let you know as soon as I find out a return to work date. As you can imagine, the reduction in headcount adversely impacted our audit plan with respect to the number of engagements conducted. Our non-school audits from the prior year are anticipated to be presented in the September meeting. The number of schools audited this year has been reduced. The results of the first semester audits will be presented later in this meeting, and the annual results will be presented at the September Audit Committee meeting. With respect to our non-school audits for the current year, disability claims management and incident reporting have not been started, and internal audit proposes that these engagements be handed off to the RIAT given the resource challenges we are facing within TDSB internal audit. We are also working with TDSB IT to leverage a GRC module, so governance risk compliance module within an existing service provider to assist us in introducing some automation to our audit working papers. We plan on utilizing this enhancement to provide schools and departments with self-assessment tools as well as to automate the follow-up process. Subsequent to the meeting, as in prior years, we'll be sending the audit committee members 2 separate emails, one with the audit committee's self-assessment questionnaire and one with the committee's assessment of TDSB internal audit. We value the committee's feedback to better serve and allow them to discharge their duties under Ontario Regulation 36110. With respect to prior Ontario Auditor General audits, we have submitted our responses for the 22-23 follow-up of the IT classroom audit. Of the 3 open recommendations, there are 3 open recommendations, relating to mandatory cybersecurity training for all staff, disaster recovery and business continuity planning. The disaster recovery and business continuity planning actions items are due beginning December 2024. For the mandatory annual cybersecurity training, while we appreciate the recommendation, we will not be implementing this due to the costs involved. It should be noted that the board currently provides a number of cybersecurity-related courses on our learning platforms that are available to all staff. However, the courses are not mandatory. With respect to mandatory training, we have augmented our MFIPA, which is the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act training, to include elements of cybersecurity with training required to be completed once upon hire. The other prior audit related to curriculum, with the report being issued in December 2022. While the majority of recommendations were directed to the ministry, 2 recommendations were directed to school boards. It's recommendations 4 and 8 of that report. The first recommendation related to principal review of annual long-range plans, and it's taking a sample of lesson plans, and that recommendation has been fully implemented. The second recommendation related to centralized bulk purchase orders for textbooks to potentially reduce costs. The third recommendation related to principal review of annual long-range plans, and it's taking a sample of lesson plans, and that recommendation has been fully implemented. The second recommendation related to centralized bulk purchase orders for textbooks to potentially reduce costs. The fourth recommendation related to We indicated that we would not be implemented this recommendation as based on our own internal analysis, it was determined that there would not be a reduction in costs as they prescribed. I can take any questions at this time.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on this report? Seeing and hearing none, may I please have a mover for receipt and a seconder? Anyone online wish to move receipt?
Trustee Ertz?
Thank you. Seconded by Ms. Pilkey. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you very much. Trustee Pay, are you still online? I think Markham is absent. Thank you. We still have quorum though. Thank you. We'll move on now then, please, to the school operational audit, semester 1, 9.2.
And through you, Madam Chair, I'll ask Mr. Hussein to continue on with his report.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I'd like to introduce item 9.2, the school operational audit semester 1 summary, which begins on agenda page 63. As I mentioned previously, that we've completed 14 school operational audit reports and have issued individual reports complete with school leadership responses. The responses included the action plan, timelines, parties responsible, as well as desired outcomes and outcome measurement. The school operational audits focus on various internal controls, which should be effectively operating within schools and are grouped into 3 specific areas. The 3 areas are operational controls relating to operating a brick and mortar school, financial controls related to school generated funds, which we call non-board funds in the report, and budgetary oversight. And the third bucket is enrollment reporting controls, which relates to various enrollment reporting compliance requirements. All items that we test are supported by guidance provided on TDSB's internal websites. The semester 1 report begins on agenda page 65 and summarizes the opportunities for improvement noted in at least 25% of the schools audited. So there is a caveat in the report that this is a non-statistical sample, so we do not extrapolate the results into the entire population. However, it does provide areas where management may choose to focus to support schools. So the observations in the report are structured to provide context, the observation itself, associated risks, internal audit's recommendation, as well as hyperlinks to the relevant guidance and resources. All schools audited in the first semester have provided responses and timelines for implementation, which we will follow up with in the future. In addition to this report, which has been distributed to superintendents, executive superintendents, and associate directors, summary reports were issued to individual support teams such as finance, health and safety, planning, etc., to highlight opportunities where schools could be assisted. The summary of the findings begins on agenda page 66. And I'll just walk through some of the highlights here. From an operational perspective, the majority of operational controls were working as intended. However, there continued to be some opportunities to improve our IT asset management, where school maintained records do not agree with central records. Our conducting and logging of fire and lockdown drills as required by the Ontario Fire Code and TDSB procedures, as well as enforcing that visitors to a school be signed in. Our maintenance of EpiPens, where a little over a third of schools did not have or had expired EpiPens. With respect to surveillance systems, this was discussed at the March 29th Finance, Budget, and Enrollment Committee, where a standardized technology will be utilized. And a committee has been put together to select prioritize the installation. So in addition, there's opportunities with the safe arrival protocols, which center around the follow-up report generated by the automated call-out system, highlighting where no responses were received. For excursion management, this is the first year excursions were taking, so 22-23 was the first year where excursions were taking place since the pandemic, hence 0% in the prior year in the comparative. From a financial perspective, The increase in school-generated funds and purchase card procedural noncompliance was primarily driven by school closure, both pandemic and labor-related in the prior year, as was the increase in school budget surpluses, which is a little under 30 million at the beginning of the school year, which works out to approximately 51,000 per school. As some may already know, the nutrition program is an independent program that operates out of many of our schools. While we do not audit the program itself, we audit the potential risks, primarily reputational, that may impact the board. We noted that there is a significant amount of funds in the individual student nutrition bank accounts, which could be more effectively used to address food insecurities experienced by many of our students. Internal audit consulted with TDSB student nutrition liaisons to address ways to effectively utilize these funds. Similarly, we noted that a little over a fifth of non-board bank accounts had balances over 25,000 and accounted for almost 3/4 of the total non-board funds available at the end of the prior school year. With respect to enrollment, we noted 8 out of 14 schools retained copies of personally identifiable information while completing ESL eligibility forms. Additionally, we noted that 7 out of 14 schools were recording excused absences as unexcused absences, which puts the board at risk of underreporting enrollment numbers. Internal audit anticipates that this will be alleviated with the adoption of the new student information system, which has a more robust absence coding mechanism. That concludes my presentation, and I can take any questions at this time.
Ms. Pilkey?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. And I think I'm addressing this question to operations staff as opposed to internal audit. I am particularly concerned about the low number of people following the safe arrival protocol, as well as the excursion management, two areas that have been extremely serious in the past here and has led to very poor consequences. Could staff speak to that, please? I realize it's a non-statistical sample. I know all that stuff, but you'd hope more than 4 schools would have been following the safe arrival protocols, as well as the excursion ones.
Through you, Madam Chair, as Wassa said in his presentation, this has been shared with the superintendents and the schools, and we will obviously speak with all the senior team to make sure they're aware and are communicating with their schools the importance of safe arrival. But we do follow up with them as we see them. And sorry, the other one was around excursion. And as Wassa said, we have done some work on updating the excursion directory. And again, coming out of the pandemic, we just have to reinforce these procedures with schools that they haven't been using for the last couple of years.
Thank you.
Ms. Pilkey, if I can pass to you, I have a follow-up.
Yep.
Through you, Madam Chair, to staff, I understand they're shared with superintendents, but is there directives that this report should be gone over at each superintendent's meeting with the principals and vice principals? Even if their schools weren't involved, I think this report should be shared by superintendents with all principals and vice principals about what the risks are, what the issues are, so they have an awareness of what they need to do. And I'm wondering if staff would consider mandating that for the fall, because I know superintendents bring all their principals and vice principals together for different agenda items. And it seems to me that this report should be one that they should go through in some detail.
Through you, Madam Chair, we will take that under advisement and work with our senior team to make that. I think it's a very good suggestion that they bring up, so all schools can think about these areas in their own schools that have been audited yet.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Pass it back.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Hearing and seeing none, again, please, a motion to receive. Thank you, Ms. Pilkey, and I'll second it for expedience sake. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Please, everyone online, can you say aye? I only heard one aye.
Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you. Thank you very much. And that passes. Next, we're going to the Regional Internal Audit Engagement and Status Update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll ask Paula Hatt, the Senior Manager of the Regional Audit Team, to take us through her report.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. This is our routine update that we present at each meeting, sharing the status of our planned engagements and other activities that we have underway. The report is in Appendix A of Item 9.3, which is on page 89 of your agenda package. For the Succession Planning Toolkit, we provided management with a copy of the toolkit that was updated based on our pilot that was completed on the IT Services Department. We also developed some guidance documents that would help in completing the toolkit and prepared a draft report that outlines our methodology. I had hoped to be able to share this report with you today, but unfortunately management had some competing priorities as they're ramping up for the end of the year, and we're unable to review everything at this point. For the reasons outlined in the report, we are recommending that the second phase of the workforce planning engagement be replaced with the disability claims management engagement that WASF's team wasn't able to accommodate due to their resource constraints. Now, as this does represent a proposed major change to our plan, the audit committee regulation require that the committee recommend this change to the board for approval. So I've included in the update a recommendation to that effect. And if the committee agrees to the change, we can start planning in the fall. In addition, this summer, we expect to start planning for the two remaining engagements, student human rights complaints management and incident handling training, with field work to begin in the new school year. Now, as it is related to these two engagements, we're also planning to include incident reporting in our scope, which was originally included in WASF's team's plan. Unfortunately, just because we did get approval for our audit plan late this year, unfortunately, due to the cancellation of the December meeting, we're a little bit behind this year as we had other work underway, but we are planning to start planning for those engagements very soon. Finally, my team has started to work on the follow-up activities for TDSB. We've updated our register of audit findings and recommendations, and we've also allocated a member of our team to dedicate them to undertaking follow-up engagements over the next several months, because we are looking to follow up on engagements and close as many old audits as possible. So that concludes my update. I look forward to your decision on the proposed plan amendment, and I'd be happy to take any questions that you have. Thank you.
So for clarity, we're actually going to change this recommendation that the report be approved, not received, because within it is the motion or the recommendation to replace phase 2 of the strategic workforce planning engagement with the disability claims management engagement. So we're moving it, Mr. Nortes, from received to approved. So I am looking, if there's any questions, please do. Otherwise, I'm looking for a mover that this report now be approved so that this recommendation goes to board.
Trustee Arts.
Thank you very much, Trustee Arts. And again, this is for approval and seconded by?
Trustee Wong.
Thank you very much, Trustee Wong. So again, 9.3, we are now voting on approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? So that passes. So just please note for the record, Mr. Nortes, that we've changed the recommendation.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Item 10 is for information only. I am told, therefore, that doesn't come on the floor. So I'd like a motion now to move into private.
Excuse me, Chair.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Nortes.
Excuse me, Chair. I believe we have one more report, the agreed upon procedures report. I don't believe.
I checked with Mr. Snyder, and he said item 10s are for information only. They don't come on the floor.
Okay.
That's what I was told. There's 10.1 and 10.2.
Thank you.
Sorry.
You just need someone to receive it.
It's like I guess staff are saying that we should be moving receipt on those just for information.
Okay, sorry, I'm getting
My apologies.
contrary information. No problem.
Thank you.
Then I would like for receipt 10.1. Thank you, Ms. Pilkey.
Trustee
Seconded
Arts.
by Trustee Arts. All in favor? Thank
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. And then 10.2, I'm assuming it's the same. It's supposed to be received, the work tracker. A motion, please.
Trustee Arts.
Thank you, Trustee Art, seconded by Trustee Pilkey, sorry, Ms. Pilkey. Ms. Pilkey, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you very much. Thank you, and sorry about that confusion. And now a motion to move into private, please.
Trustee Wong.
Thank you, Trustee Wong, seconded by myself.
Trustee Arts.
Oh, okay, thank you, Trustee Arts. So now we'll just take a minute to move into private. I think everyone in the room is fine, so we're just going to close the door here and we'll just make sure that the right people are